Yo, what's good, everybody? Joey J. Ping checking in, man. RespectMyRegion.com. What's good, everybody? We're back with another episode of the RMR podcast. Respect My Region podcast in the house, folks. We got episode 135. Today's episode brought to you guys by Dewey Cannabis out of Pullman, Washington. And, folks, we actually have the big boss, the big dog himself of Dewey Cannabis, representing Pullman, Washington. Wazoo in the motherfucking house. Cougs in this bitch. We got to do it, man. Big shout out to my guy, Jordan Zager. How you living, bro?
I'm living good, man. How are you doing, Joey?
I'm great. I don't know if you've ever had that kind of intro before, but
Yeah, very rarely do I get the Coug shout out, so I'll just start us off with a let's get a go Cougs.
come on, man. Go Cougs! Whose house? Cougs' house.
Our house.
Come on, man. Let's go. I'm originally a Central Washington University Wildcat, but I went to the University of Houston, which is also a Cougar. So
There you go.
I'm a Cougar cousin to you. And by nature, I'm super excited and I was honored to have worked with you on the 2024 Respect My Region North American Weed Tour, representing Washington State cannabis to the fullest. You reached out, Jordan. You were like, yo, we're doing some really great things. There's some high level science going on here. There's a lot of passion. There's local, there's culture. There's this like we're the little guys hustling mentality and like we're we're really trying to like make a name, and I respect all that. And I believe, I don't know if I just said this, but I believe award winning also fits the tag, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We clean up in award shows. We've never had a product not come home with an award. This spans the last 3 to 4 years. I mean that is really the moniker that the pace we set at Dewey is quality and consistency comes first, and we aim to achieve that through unique genetics. So we're constantly leveraging our breeding program, leveraging our lab that we have in house to make sure, we're bringing high quality products to the market, but also we're bringing unique products to the market.
Absolutely. And unique is something that is really fitting for your guys' brand, for the branding and the marketing side of things, for the cultivation side of things. And I say unique because it's not what you would think somebody in Washington would really be doing. You guys have, unique partnership. You guys are out there where you're located. There's these different variables that make you special and unique, but also put a little bit of a barrier to, it makes it a little harder for you guys to some degree. We've talked a little bit about, off camera today. It's 30 something degrees in Pullman. There are people around the country that have never been in that cold of weather in their entire life, let alone grown weed in environments that could impact it at that level, right? We
Yeah.
talk about the science in your breeding program, right? You look at your experience in cannabis, Jordan, and the needs and wants of the cannabis industry there in Washington, and it does point to brands needing to do breeding at the end of the day. And you guys fulfill that and do that at a very high level. We're going to talk today a little bit about your genetics program, your breeding, your seeds, which I have a pack here in my fridge ready and waiting for that when I come across that grower that deserves that pack. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk a little bit about the products you have for sale today in Washington State. The PN Dub, you know what I'm saying? Repping the 509. We're going to talk a little bit about your retail partners there. And so it's going to be a great episode. Now, before we get going, Jordan, let's start off with a little bit of the brand story and your story. How did you get into cannabis? And tell me a little bit about how, the story behind creating Dewey. Because I know they're probably different, but ultimately they do go hand in hand to some extent.
Yeah, no, you're totally right there. My personal journey in cannabis, really goes back to when I was a teenager. I grew up in a very cannabis open community of South Lake Tahoe. I'm a second generation cannabis entrepreneur. You can extrapolate and connect the dots on what my dad was up to in the 80s and 90s. But that was really my first exposure into it. I started growing when I was about 19 years old. And I've always been an inquisitive person. I'm really a plant nerd at heart. And plant is so amazing, so unique. And you really don't witness that until, or at least I felt I didn't witness that until growing it myself. So after, my first few home grows, getting involved with some medical collectives in California, I decided there's so much that we don't know about this plant. How can I contribute to this? So I embarked on a scientific career path that ultimately led to a doctorate degree in plant genetics. And ever since then, over the last 7 years, I've been, trying to figure out how are genetics influencing the entourage effect? How are they influencing the aroma profile? How are they influencing, the extract quality of a variety? Whether they're heavy hash washers or you just know this strain is going to yield 5-6%, from fresh frozen. So we've been looking to answer those questions. And how we wrap that all into a brand is when we started our brand, we knew that we were a little bit different. We're a company founded by plant science nerds, not necessarily folks with a ton of cannabis background, but we wanted a brand that was a little bit more approachable than the gold and black brands that you find on the shelves. When you look at our logo, it's a smile. We want to be warm and inviting, whether you're fifth decade stoner or you're just dabbling into cannabis for the first time. All are welcome to use our products.
I really enjoyed the disposable all-in-one vape. That did make it. I had some of the products that I left back in Spokane. I did have some sent to me, and I've really enjoyed your all-in-one. I believe it's live resin oil, or is that cured resin oil?
That's right. It's a live resin disposable.
Yeah. Beautiful oil, beautiful orange color to match with the branding. A phenomenal product. As someone who's very picky about my vapes, I found myself ripping that and playing with it, fidgeting with it, and having it on me all the time over the last couple weeks. And I also want to show love to the hardware because for the cloud to heating to flavor balancing act ratio clouded whatever we're looking for and all the things, right? I loved it. And it didn't burn through the oil, but I still had good clouds. I could just sip on it, or what I always say, just breathe on it or breathe it in, breathe it in, and it would still rip and deliver a lower temp vape. I could rip on it and get the clouds. Never once sacrificing flavor or sacrificing effect. Never once really making me cough and hack up a lung. And I thought, wow, this is phenomenal. No one would ever know that if it wasn't for you reaching out and trying to connect, and no one on my network would ever know that, You guys are out there in Pullman, Washington, Eastern Washington. It's tough to be in Eastern Washington. It's tough to be in the Washington market, man. What made you decide to do cannabis up there? Was it just because you were there in school and all that stuff, or was there another reason why you chose the locations you did and not another market? Because now there's a lot of markets that you could have done this in, right?
Yeah, when we started Dewey back in 2018, I think at the time there were maybe 6 markets that were open and active. So it wasn't like we had this hey, there's 23 markets and hey, these 2 are getting 4,200 a pound, right? That wasn't the scenario. It was hey, we can only go to a few places. Part of it was just happenstance. Our facility happened to be 10 minutes from the house I was living in at the time. It was already a plant research facility. There were greenhouses here. There was, a plant genetics lab, and there was extra acreage that we could build on and grow outdoor in. So it did just check so many boxes. So that's how we ended up staying in Pullman. The Washington market, when we entered in 2018, was going through sort of the first major price compression that all markets are destined to experience, and we sort of use that as a winning moniker because some of the crazy roller coaster drops that you see from a pricing standpoint had already happened. So we sort of figured, hey, things have stabilized here a little bit. Now, of course, 2020 happened and things went haywire. Price of cannabis went up. People were smoking all the time. We're getting stimulus checks and whatnot. So we did ride that wave after that further price compression, but we have felt that Washington has been predictable and fairly stable. We haven't had to go through the recent price compressions that like Massachusetts and Michigan have had to endure.
Mm-hmm. The market, I mean, I was there in 2016 and 2017 as a bud tender in heavy marketing. I was still there 17 and 18. Christmas Day 2018 viral video, moved to LA 2019 February. So from 16 to January 1st, 19, heavy consumer, heavy involvement, throwing events, networking with brands, doing tours and interviews. And then I left, and now you guys are around. And it's wonderful because it's like there's this whole new wave there and a whole new energy of building community. And I feel like I get this from you. I get this passion for science. I get this passion for the plant. And then there's also because there's this passion for the business side of it, which is a different detached element, right? The retails. They always say embrace the suck, right? That's the quote from those motivational speakers, right? Like
Yep.
the business side of cannabis is a big part of the suck, right? It sucks the soul the most. It's tough to have to adapt, compromise, change what we want to do passionate wise, or maybe for the sake of quality, to have to adjust it into this mold or this system. And so how has Dewey been able to really flow and adapt with the retail systems in place in Washington, with the COD model there by law for payments, and also the lack of events and no delivery, and overall the lack of the ability to build community through the regular means that regular businesses can do that.
Yeah, I think it's been really a testament to, do we have a product that the market wants to start? If you don't have that in a mature market, like, you go home. No one's going to buy your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first element. You got to get in your door with what we think is the right price and quality overlap. The next is, we do a lot of pandering, call it marketing, whatever you want, to bud tenders directly. They are the final salesman of our product.
Yeah, in Washington, they move the units. The buyer is the door, but you got to get the bud tenders to move off the shelf.
Exactly.
Like really, like there's no other marketing channels. Like
yeah, no, as a brand in Washington, we can't have a billboard. We can't advertise publicly not adult magazines, but not in traditional ways. And not only that, like there's no vertical integration in the state. So we can't go open a Dewey store. So there are those guardrails, that have made things a little bit difficult, but ultimately, it comes down to people trying our product, and it's not about that first time buyer. It's about the second time, the third time, the fifth time. I feel that, we have a product that we're able to introduce to the market that responded well, and people want to keep coming back.
Let's talk about some of those products. What did you enter the market with in terms of your guys' flower skews?
Yeah, when we launched our initial flower skews, we offered grams and eighths and 2 half-gram pre-rolls in a
Cool.
tube. And those strains, early strains we launched with, Happy Trails, which we still grow today, our Florida Explorer, which we're still growing today, and then a bunch of stuff I guarantee you've never heard of, things like Rain Dance. We had a Do-si-do cross that we called Do-si Dewey, like a Shiatsu Kush, something called Sunbreak. So these are things that ultimately have sort of been the foundational pieces of our breeding program, but they're not things that we continue to bring to the market. We are ever evolving in that way.
And I pulled up your website because a second ago we were talking about, I was showing love to the Dewey dab pen, right?
Yeah.
It's elite live resin, right? It's a great product. And then I also too here on your website, I'm seeing a 14-gram jar with 28 pre-rolls. You talk to me a little bit about that form factor as well.
Yeah, so as we've grown, our SKU list has grown. The first non-flower or pre-roll SKU that we launched was our live resin vape carts, fully ceramic live resin, just like you were mentioning. We do have that as well in the disposable dab pen. There we go.
Yeah, right in the middle. Yeah, that's beautiful.
We on the joint SKUs, we've got our standard non-infused joints. They come in a 2-pack, a 10-pack.
That's pretty. Oh, hold that back up in the middle. Hold that back. That thing's pretty. I like that right there. I like that leaf print on it. That's sick.
Yeah.
The veins. That's dope.
Yep. Yeah. So that's been our SKU mix. We did introduce the half ounce of pre-rolls just in December. That's a brand new product that we launched.
Wow.
And what we've seen is this, pretty widespread adoption of the convenience SKUs really over the last 2 years. I think 2023 saw the, vape carts didn't disappear or go anywhere, but about half of that market was taken up by disposables. I think disposables continue to eat into the just traditional 510 thread. And, our data, we say data doesn't lie, and our pre-rolls have just continued to grow in popularity. So we do have those in the non-infused, and then we do also have a infused pre-roll selection that's filled with bubble hash. That we make on site. And those are called matchsticks.
Wow. Using your guys' own biomass to do the infusions, or are you guys doing collaborations with the oil?
Yeah, it's all our own biomass. Any of our hydrocarbon products, like the vape carts and the dab pens, we do work with processors who make the oil for us, but it is our biomass. And then the solventless products we do make it in house.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. That's fantastic. We got a question here from Captain Kush on YouTube. You guys sell seeds. We talked a little bit about that. Could we touch bases there and talk a little bit about your guys' breeding program, the seeds, and how that whole works? And even so, I don't know what the legalities are of seeds in Washington. Washington's a picky market, so can maybe you provide some context on just the program and what you're doing and who it's for?
Yeah, ultimately, our seed business is for home growers. That is our target market there. You can find our seed offerings at deweyseed.com. A lot of this is run through partners, so they are genetics that we've worked with, but they're not necessarily produced in the Washington market. Like you said, the Washington market's a little tricky. The Washington hemp program doesn't really have any clear cut guidelines for producing seed. So everything we do is done in the state of Oregon, where they have, specific licensing for seed production. That's how that's done. For the most part, with our breeding program, we focus heavily on aroma profiles. So everything on Dewey Seed Co., you can basically trace down to an aroma category,
Okay.
and grow from there. But the same seed packs that are for sale there are the same seed packs that led to all of our award-winning cultivars. I think there's eight awards over there.
Hold on. Is that? Can you do me a favor? Can you grab one
Yeah,
or two? Can you just bring it up real quick? Yeah.
yeah.
Let's just give it. Let's make it. Shout out to homies at Hall of Flowers. They used this word the other day in a meeting. A moment in time. Let's take a moment here to showcase some of the awards that Dewey Cannabis has in Washington State, folks. So what are we looking at here?
So, so these are Northwest. These are Leaf Bowl awards. So we
Okay,
don't have High Times Cup. We don't have the Emerald Cup here,
but you
but
got
we do
Northwest
have.
Leaf.
We got the Northwest Leaf, and they put on an awesome program, awesome competition every year. So right here,
Amazing.
this was our first place award we won. This was for our Caribbean chocolate.
Okay.
We placed this in the open category. This strain straight up smells like like a chocolate kush. Um, it kills. It's awesome. Over here, this is from a year later. Same award, open category,
Oh
like
yeah, that
for
glitter party.
our glitter party, which
Yeah.
is it's a special strain. It's got some, I believe it's got some grape ape lineage in there. It's got some OG Kush as well, but also some of the proprietary Dewey stuff as well.
Amazing.
So we
I
like
love that.
to,
Thank you for grabbing those. I know that's
of
sometimes a
course.
little cheesy for you guys to flex the trophies, but again, coming from Washington, people know that Washington's got good weed, right? And we want, and this is proof right here. Mixed light, greenhouse right there, winning open category, placing in the competition. Every time you guys have entered, you've won or you guys have placed. I think that says a lot about the consistency, a lot about the cultivation, the commitment. As a Raiders fan, the commitment to excellence. Y'all are, you striving to always be one of the best and to be one of the greatness at what y'all do. And I love that energy and that commitment from you guys. I love the science to it. And so I want to circle back a little bit to your background and tie in the Wazoo stuff and how cool it is because we started our brand in college, right? Respect my region, right? And so we're all about uplifting local culture. And the first place that ever booked us at another school was Washington State University. Wazoo does go hard. It's known as a party school. It's known for football. For a period of time, it was known really well for basketball. You got Spokane with Gonzaga. Wazoo in Eastern Washington has a very, very strong community of sports lovers, people that drink, and they also smoke a lot of weed. They love being social, snowboarding, skiing, lake stuff, river stuff. It's a bunch of people that do things. And so, talk to me a little bit about this Wazoo connection that you guys have, brand, and also how that really ties in with the science and everything to help propel your company up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah. So you touched on some of the things Wazoo's known for. Sort of in pop culture, largely sports. Klay Thompson went here. We have the Cougs. Coug us versus everyone mentality that every single game day for the last, I think, 25 years, there's been a cougar flag in the background, right? So a lot of people know us for our sports, but more regionally focused. Wazoo's really known as an ag school.
Yeah.
The Pullman community and man, in like, a couple hundred miles in any direction, you are surrounded by wheat fields. Whitman County, which is where Pullman is and where Dewey headquarters is located, produces more wheat than any other county in the country.
Wow.
More than people in Nebraska, more than Kansas. That's not what you think about when you think about Washington. But That is what Washington State is known for, is its ag program. So that's what initially brought me up here. Very good ag program. Back when I entered grad school, like there was no option for cannabis science. So I found a program that I felt like pretty close. I found my PhD work focused on how trichomes make special products, just not in cannabis, right? So actually, everyone on this podcast knows about trichomes as it relates to cannabis, but what they might not know is 30% of all plants have trichomes.
Wow.
And they make different things. So in cannabis, they make cannabinoids and terpenes. But in other plants, they make alkaloids or other terpenes that cannabis doesn't make. So that's what I got studying. I figured this is the closest I can get to cannabis research without it actually being cannabis.
Absolutely. Man, that's crazy.
Through Wazoo, I found some other folks that were in the ag world that were interested in cannabis, and that's ultimately how we started our company.
It's interesting because I've heard similar conversations come out of people that have gone to Arizona and the AZ schools down there, obviously California schools, and also Texas. I know Texas A&M has a hemp program down there to study varietals in extreme Texas regions for stabilization and breeding purposes there. And so I find that, you guys representing Wazoo and that ag program, you got it's inspiring. I think you've created, it's like kids, brewers one day didn't think it would be legal, during, the prohibition. And now there's, federally funded programs and universities for, decades in certain places, to really help that. Washington, our region, right? Central has a brewing program. I'm sure Wazoo has something to that effect. Like the fact that you guys have done that out there in Pullman and in this wheat region that you're in, I just find that that's super fucking cool. It's like, it's just farming to some people and it's not so exciting and so cool. But when you think about the impact and how things translate, like America was built on a lot of that kind of stuff, was farming and the simple sciences that went into doing that efficiently, right? And at scale.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Super cool. And plus I'm just going to throw it out there. Your guys is, at night, it looks like we're on Antarctica out there with your guys' lights glowing. It was just super. I felt like I was in a Star Wars scene. Like,
definitely. If you're out here in a blizzard, it's like you're on Hoth and, there's a tangent somewhere for you to shoot and crawl into.
Now, this is what's been so amazing is, right, guys, I use ChatGPT a lot for these questions, and so far we haven't used any of them. This conversation is going so great, but it's time for me to dial it back in just a little bit. Why Dewey? Why that name? Who's Dewey? What's Dewey? How did that come around?
Yeah, that name came about. I was in school and I was sitting through this lecture where this person was talking about sort of the about hemp breeding. This was a professor from University of Minnesota, and it turns out the USDA, the only person to get paid by the federal government to actively grow cannabis, at least at the time, was a man named Lester Dewey. He was a breeder for the USDA back in between 1910 and 1930.
Wow.
Yeah, so we sort of said, hey, he's the OG cannabis scientist.
Wow, that's crazy. That's pretty cool. I believe I remember you telling me about that, but I didn't remember that detail. Nor did I don't think I paid attention to the timeline. 1910, 1930 DEA window. Like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty epic. Imagine how long he was doing that before then to become that expert for them. Right.
Well, back then hemp was used for so many things. It's easy to forget. When you look at any ocean-going ship, it's made out of fiberglass or it's made out of metal. But they used to be made out of wood with sails and ropes, and all those ropes were made from hemp. Wow. So it was like a core piece of American history, but really world history.
World history, yeah.
No hemp, no ships. Yeah.
That's crazy. So all those Johnny Depp movies, all those spice trade areas, all hemp ropes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy to think about. Okay, let's get into some more fun ones. All right, so premium flower. What makes your cultivation stand out to help produce that premium flower? We saw those awards, Mixed Light Greenhouse. Can you walk me through your guys' ecosystem there?
Yeah, so for the most part, we're doing what a lot of folks are doing. We're growing in cocoa, delivering nutrients in a hydroponic system. We do, add some tools in there. Big shout out to the folks at Arroya for their data monitoring system that they enable, but really can dial in our irrigations, make sure that every round our plants are getting exactly what they need. They're not getting too much water, they're not getting too little water. And we've been able to really zero in on when to apply the right stresses to either boost yields, boost trichome production, um, or even hone in on flavor.
Yeah.
Um, and the other part is, I think, top to bottom here at Dewey, like our team is very, very passionate about what they do, and they want to be producing the best. So really just, all the way from our trimmers to our clone specialists, like every piece in that chain, people want the quality that comes from hard work.
We talked a little bit earlier about your guys' genetics and breeding program, and you mentioned something that I want to key back in on and tie it to what we're talking about now. Is how you curate the genetics and breeding on your website from more of a flavor perspective, right? And that's kind of also too how the mindset behind them in the breed, some of the breeding. I would imagine that that's similarly how things are presented with Dewey Cannabis, the farms and the products. So, can you talk a little bit about the flavor profiles and the associated strains that you put in that from what you've made product wise?
Yeah, so I think first there is to introduce our lab. So we do have a full analytical chemistry lab here on site. The same type of equipment you'd see in a state-run
You
lab.
can break down the products from more of a molecular terpenoid, cannabinoid basis.
Exactly. So we can test for 70 different terpenes. We can also look at other molecule classes that are contributing to aroma. Things like thiols. These are sulfur containing compounds. So we're able to look at all of that from every breeding cross we make, all of the children that we raise. We can hone in on what we want. Not only that, we can go and take things from the supermarket or from Macy's if we wanted to. Take perfumes, take various fruits and run them on our instruments, and then we can, using advanced statistics, sort of group our breeding crosses into, oh wow, these have the same chemical compounds as a dragon fruit or as grape candy. So that's sort of how we get there from the aroma basis.
Interesting. When it comes to that stuff, are you guys? And this is just a me being stoned question because of that OG Kush I was smoking earlier. But are you guys using AI or anything in that realm to help analyze this data or predict
Yeah,
anything or like compare stuff?
yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily AI and like the
The
generative
current
language
trending
models
sense
that
of
are pretty
ChatGPT.
popular, but yeah, definitely some
Yeah.
machine learning. And
Okay.
all that really is, excuse me, you tell the statistical program, hey, do this 1,000 times and come up with an answer, and then do it another 1,000 times trying to find a different answer. And so it will just keep doing that until it sort of lands on a unified picture.
Cool.
So that's sort of, yeah, the type of machine learning we do.
Yeah, I guess the base layer of that question is how are you using technology to kind of take that more right and amplify your what you're trying to
Yeah,
do and make more magic with that, I guess, to some extent.
yeah.
That's
So what
super
we do
awesome.
is we take the data that comes out about the aromas, and then we couple that with genetic data that we capture, and
Hmm.
then sort of plug those into these models, and we can sort of identify, oh, there's a difference in the genetic code at this location that always appears when we have this called the skunk aroma. Whenever that's high, this gene sequence is there. So that's sort of that integration of technology.
I was thinking about what you were saying earlier about how the wheat fields and how you're in a county that produces more than anywhere else in America. And for a second there, when I thought back to being at your farm earlier this year, or towards the end of last year in November, and I made that comment about it looking. You said Hoth, and then I got my wheels spinning, and I was like, it took me back to this other farm in Ohio and some of these places we went to on the drives through Missouri and in Illinois, and just farms. And so I want to chat a little bit about some of the struggles that you went through being surrounded by farms, where there's a predisposed history of whatever they were, however they grow. And did that cause any issues with your guys' farm at all? Was that something? Did you have any struggles dealing with these other things that come from other farms? Because my understanding, right, is that like every farm is different, has their own ecosystem of stuff going on, and then when something else moves in, it's like stuff moves around and starts going into both. So how was that like? Because you're 7 years in, you've dialed stuff into a T now.
Yeah, I think a big portion of it is luck. Our neighbors where we are across the street is some land owned by WSU. It's where their dairy is. They're not doing any active farming other than some dairy
Oh,
farming.
nice. Okay.
So yeah, no worries about them spraying pesticides or herbicides and it drifting onto our farm.
Yeah, I was thinking about this one in Ohio that was like you drove in and it was like corn like all the way around them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So one of our
oh, hold on, folks. We got a little bit of technical difficulty. He was about to go into something super epic, so we're gonna bring him off screen for just one moment and let him come back. All right, we'll give it about 2 or 3 seconds. Here we go. Oh, hold on one sec. There he is. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. There we go. There we go. Oh, you hear me, Jordan? All right, folks, we'll give him 1 second. We were having such a great conversation. Now, just to take a moment to buy him some time, folks, this is the RMR podcast, episode 135. North American Weed Tour 2024. We just wrapped it up. We finished in the end of December. We ended at Rolling Loud. We ended in Florida at Turp also. Right before that, MJ Biz. Right before MJ Biz, we were in Oregon and Washington, really doing content and tours at a lot of these farms, places like Dewey Cannabis, places like Hometown Cultivation. We're going to let him slide right on back here. Now, here he is. Jordan, you there? I can see you. I can see you and hear you. I can see you and hear you, brother. Uh-oh. Oh, I can't hear you now. Did you mute it on accident? This is hilarious, folks. Sometimes we do have technical difficulties, you guys. This is the occasional thing that happens. We'll give him the chance to pop back in. Why don't you slide back over on your computer? We'll just finish it that way, Jordan. Perfect. In the meantime, folks, I'm going to go ahead and pull up their website. I had this pulled up earlier, so we're going to do a quick little pivot. I'm going to walk you through some of the products and things that we were just talking about on their site. So here we are, deweykannabis.com. As we were talking about before, 1 jar, 14 grams, 28 pre-rolls. This product just launched in December. Look at that, hella doobies. I love that, man. I think, this group has some really solid branding. I love this all-in-one pen. I first tried this style of hardware in New York back in August, I believe, and really enjoyed it. Problem is that my experience in August wasn't with great oil. Dewey puts wonderful live resin in that from their own products, and ultimately was a really great experience there. So we're going to try to bring Jordan back up. Jordan, are you there? Hello, Jordan.
There we go.
You say it? There you are. There we go, brother. All right, perfect. You're back. So cool. Well, while I have you here, and since we're already going through the site, right, you showed us a little bit earlier about the live resin vape, right? This was your cartridge, right? What we didn't see is the packaging. Is that still your guys' current packaging there?
That is, yeah. There's
a beautiful
window
beautiful.
on the backside that you don't see here, but yeah, there's a.
No, of course. But that's still right. Pesticide-free ceramic cartridge, and as you guys described, Terp Heaven. I think it's pretty cool. You guys have a lookbook for your products. That's super unique. And big shout out to your guys' team, right? You guys got the various products here. We've got the vape. You've got one of your signature, the Caribbean chocolate, your live rosin solventless hash, your dab pens, your doobie packs. What else we got over here? Those are your matchsticks, right? Those solventless bubble hash infused, that 14-gram pack. What else we got over here? Okay, it just goes through. Yeah, man, this was wonderful. I was really, again, for not being familiar with the brand prior to us connecting, I have been quite impressed both with the flower quality, the story, the hustle, the science. You guys clearly have been on a mission and are working to deliver and execute upon the passion that you have, that, this highest level of product. So if it's okay with you, I got a couple more questions. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hop to it.
All right, here we go. So people don't know that much about Washington's market. They know we've talked a little bit about some of the struggles and some of the difficulties. There's obviously taxes. It is a COD by law state. But let's talk about some of these other things. There's only 450 or so locations, right? They're only retailers in dispensary form. There are 0 deliveries. There's also no direct to consumer model. Washington, as someone was commenting, there's a very strong wine industry there. There's a very strong craft brewery model there. But yet for cannabis, we're not able to do that, right? And so talk a little bit about some of these things, some of these pain points that the Washington markets have, that if the government there, the legislators, if the board of whoever, the LCB, whatever, if they were to be able to make some changes, if they could just hear it, what would you talk about? What would you like to see maybe as some changes that they would, maybe could consider?
Yeah, I think one change that would really help the industry is putting cultivation, the growing of plants under the Department of Agriculture, not under the former alcohol board, which is now the Liquor and Cannabis Board.
Yep.
They just don't necessarily have that expertise to determine, hey, are these guys hiding something, or they just don't really have a great way to police us. They don't understand ag. So I think that's one step. Now, of course, you mentioned taxes. We do have the highest tax rate in the state. It effectively is 36% at the retail level. But that's the only, transaction that is taxed. So that is, helpful for the farmers.
Yep.
But at the same time, it does decrease our wholesale price. So yeah, if we could address those taxes, that'd be tremendous. I know there's a few things working its way through legislature this year that, might lead to some improvements. One thing I'm advocating heavily for is the allowance of employee ownership. So, yes, some employees can claim ownership of a cannabis business, but they have to go through this vetting process. But, there's a massive tax advantage to being an employee-owned company, both at the federal and at the state level. So we'd really like to see something go there.
Wow.
That, like, you look at the cannabis industry and like who's winning right now, and it's tough. Not a lot of people are. But the ones that are, called winning the most are oftentimes publicly traded companies.
Yeah.
Employees, can't really earn any type of real ownership there.
Yeah. And those companies are not in Washington, for the record.
And they're not in Washington, exactly. So that could go a long way.
Which is crazy, because if the state, right, if the government, if the legislation, if that governing board were to attract some of those companies, then there would be more opportunity and things would be more on the even playing field. But that's a different story. So I appreciate you sharing the insights there. Again, there are things that they're working on. We very much appreciate the LCB for what they've done, what they're doing, their efforts, but it is a growing in process. So if you guys watch this, please don't take offense. Just take it as feedback so we can push the industry farther. My big thing, delivery. Amazon is from there. Wow. What a miss. What a big miss not to have done that from day one. But to each their own. Would love to be able to have less schools striking, to have better infrastructure, simply because more money was getting taxed at the consumer retail purchasing level. But again, that would be great. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's next for you guys, right? We're early into 2025, but we are a month in. We've got 11 months left. What is on the horizon in Q1 and Q2 for you guys? What are you guys going to be wrapping up and like, doing through this finishing up of Q1? And then what are you guys going to be doing in Q2?
Yeah, Q1, we've got a couple new strains hitting the market here shortly. One thing I really like about our brand is before we put strains into market, we do lots of sampling to bud tenders and get their direct feedback. And that's actually how we get a lot of our naming. So this new strain doesn't have a name yet. Bud tenders that have sampled it fill out the surveys. You get some swag. You also, can possibly name a strain. But we have this one strain that, it's just got this. It just takes me back to this variety that I bought a ton when I first started smoking weed. It was a 707 headband. And man, just the nose on this thing, it's probably more than nostalgia. It makes me feel like a 19-year-old again. But it is, I'm very excited for that to hit the market. Really nice, hazy, citrusy aroma.
Shout out those headband genetics, and then you guys doing what you can to bring them back and also push them and keep them, not just keep them around, but push them. And really doubling down on that.
Yeah, I think a big issue from like a commercial cannabis point of view is those headbands are oftentimes like 9 to 12 week finishers. Most cannabis operations are running on a strict 8-week cycle, so it doesn't make sense to run those. What we've been able to do is breed them with some of these shorter finishers to really get it to a point where it makes sense to commercially grow these strains.
Yeah, keep the terpene profile and some of that look around, and cross it with something that can bring it to life a little bit faster.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. That's super cool. Okay, well, let's get into your guys' expansion nationally. Is that going to be a thing for you guys, or are we focusing on local and craft and maintaining what you guys have going on there and building the empire there in Washington?
Yeah, we're going to continue to eat away market share in Washington. There's no use in us trying to shut this down here. We are definitely keeping our eye on some of the newer markets, the markets where the barrier to entries remain high, or where there's not many cultivators. Nothing set in stone, but that is ultimately the goal. Is we'll be somewhere new to close the year.
That's awesome. That's exciting. Okay. In terms of running the business, what would you say your favorite part of the day-to-day work is for you at Dewey?
Yeah, I think it's really working with the team here. I've sort of set it up. So I'm sort of a jack of all trades. I'm involved with all of our departments, whether it's sales or cultivation or the R&D team. But ultimately, I think we have, top to bottom, a very, very strong team here, despite us being in a really small town. So interacting with these faces every day is great. I get to work with my wife. She oversees our sales and marketing. So big shout out to Allie. She's sort of the one driving the branding, from inside the company. That is great. And then, in the few community events that do occur, it's always a great time to get out there, see new faces, see old friends, and really just, share what we've been working so hard to put out there.
I love that, man. Okay, so what I want to do now is pivot to more of like a fun, creative, more personalized series of questions here. Try to answer them a little bit quicker, and I'll try to wrangle you up if you start going down the rabbit hole, because you're the weed guy. So, all right, if you had to name your starting 5 all-time strains, that could include current bangers from Dewey or just your favorites all time, what is your starting 5?
Yeah, got to go with a Purple Tahoe OG. Got to go with a 707 headband. Definitely going to be pulling Island Cookies out of the Dewey catalog, and probably the Pink Drink as well. And then finally, oh man, probably some Pog Dog.
Oh, okay.
Strain that, some well-grown outdoor sun-grown Pog Dog would probably be pretty high up on my list.
Now, so like for us, Respect My Region, we bring respect to regions, right? That's what we try to do. We try to talk about stuff and bring attention to local things, right? That's what we do. So I want to take this time to dive into your breeding and genetics, right? Not just what you guys do, but your knowledge, your experience, your research over the time that you've been involved. If someone were to say, yo, man, I want to try some weed from Washington, don't give me none of that cookie shit. Don't get me none of that Cali shit. Hit me with some shit from Washington. What would you do? What would you give them?
From our brand, or just generally?
Just in general, some Washington weed, some strains or some genetics from there.
Yeah.
You guys, Exotic Mike, whoever, right? What your homie, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I think some, oh man, what did they used to call it?
I love this right now.
Some Jack's Girl. This was a strain created in the Skagit Valley in like probably around 2005. It was widely distributed amongst the medical community. Really is appetite stimulating. But I know for certain that is sort of like an OG Washington strain that has definitely been a part of like everyone's breeding program.
Jack's Girl.
Jack's Girl.
Okay.
that's probably high up there. I think I got a lot of respect for the folks at Falcana. They were a medical
Oh yeah,
brand that has persisted through the rec days here in Washington. None of their strains are necessarily poking out, but there's some OGs here in Washington.
yeah. A lot of their stuff is bred through their program.
Yeah, and beyond that, I feel like the whole wedding cake craze sort of started up here with Panda. Maybe that's they were just the first ones I saw that had it. Maybe that came from California. I don't know, but probably something's out to those guys.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so in the Northwest, we're real big on culture, right? There's the outdoorsy stuff, right? There's music, right? We like small bands. We got Jimi Hendrix from there. There's a lot. There's a lot of history and culture, right, from Washington, man. Y'all are not too far from the gorge, realistically. Like it's a vibe there. So my thing is this: if you were going, what's your go-to activity of choice outdoors when you're smoking weed, and what strain do you bring with you when you're doing it?
Yeah, if it's summertime, it's paddle boarding, and I've got some Florida Explorer with me. If it's wintertime, I'm definitely out skiing, either backcountry or at a resort. Probably chiefing down, something more on the indica side. I already gave a shout out to our Island Cookies. That's a great strain.
Yep.
So probably Island Cookies on a chairlift.
I love Island Cookies on a chairlift. Say less. I'll meet you there. Okay. Now let's do the music side of it. So if y'all were gonna throw a music event with Dewey Cannabis, right? It was the Dewey Cannabis Music Festival or Music Experience, whatever, right? Would you do it on a mountain? Would you do it at a lake? Would you do it in a town or a city? And second question, who's the performers?
Oh man,
who's the Dewey Cannabis Festival lineup? Lineup.
Dreamline. I mean, that's so hard not to just pick my favorite musicians.
That's okay. That's what the point of it is.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be throwing LCD Sound System. They'd be headlining. I think Modest Mouse would be in there. They're a Washington band. They've been on my iPod since I got an iPod.
You said iPod.
Oh, yeah. Gen 1 iPod. Yeah, Modest Mouse.
I love it.
But where we'd have it, yeah, I think a Dew Fest would be pretty sweet, like in a
Dew Fest.
I think like a foresty or like a alpine meadow or something like that.
I love it. Okay. If you were gonna infuse one of your strains into a food, maybe a meal, or your favorite dish, what would it be? What would the dish be, and what would you infuse in that dish? Like if it was a steak or maybe fajitas or whatever, like what would you infuse in the dish, and what's the dish?
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to twist it up. It's going to be a mojito, but rather than using
beverage, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, rather than using lime or not lime, but mint in there, you muddle up some weed. Go for something that's got a little bit of a citrus.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, man, I really appreciate you answering my fun, dumb questions, man. I just get, I try to make it fun. I try to make it light. We talk a lot of cannabis. We got into a little bit of science today. Before I let you get out of here, for those dispensaries out there in Washington that haven't heard of you, or maybe they haven't taken samples, they haven't been blessed by the Wazoo gods yet to try your guys' wonderful weed. For those bud tenders who have only bought and purchased weed that they already buy all the time, who haven't tried your stuff, what would you like those people to know about Dewey Cannabis and why they should try and push your weed?
Yeah, I think we've got a product for any type of smoker. We've got aroma profiles that satisfy people that want those new smokers that are asking for sativas and they want something citrusy. But we've also got stuff for the OGs that want something skunky and OG like. Not only that, you're guaranteed to get a high quality product that has never had pesticides touch it. That's what we stand behind. We want safe product going to our consumers, and I think the retailers want that as well.
That's amazing, man. And having tried it, folks, I can co-sign the taste, the flavor, the unique genetics, and I would also say this a really good, just smooth smoke, man. Like sometimes it just can be as simple as that. People like weed for different things. You can like bells and whistles and genetics and do whatever, but if you just like a good smoothie smoke, Dewey had that. If you wanted fun, unique genetics, they had that. If you wanted potency, they had that. If you wanted terps, they had that. And those things are all important to different types of people. which is why Dewey is great for those premium smokers in Washington. It's great for the smoker that wants 28 joints like me. I'm trying to smoke 2 to 3 joints a day. I love pre-rolls for that reason. I think you guys and your form factors are wonderful. Big shout out to the vapes. Big shout out to the joints. Shout out to your flower lineup and all the entire team there at Dewey Cannabis. Thank you guys for hosting us. Thank you guys for working with us on the North American Weed Tour. And I look forward to rocking with you all this year to some capacity. Folks, this was episode 135 of the RMR podcast. I'm Joey Brabo. This is Jordan Zager. He's got the PhD. I just smoked the THC. Make sure y'all tap in, like, follow, subscribe. If you guys have any weed questions, make sure you hit my guy. Follow them on their website or sign up for their newsletter. Go support them on social media. And we'll see you on the next episode. Love you guys.